I told you about another embarrassing thing. You're going to laugh at me about this.
Yay.
It's health related in that it has a lot to do with my body. Specifically,
I wonder if I should start thinking up embarrassing moments.
no, don't. Leave that to me.
Or maybe my dad.
So, if you haven't noticed, if you look at my eyebrows,
Okay.
the one, of course, where the camera's at,
Yeah.
I
Okay.
accidentally, as I'm trimming my eyebrows, forgot to put the guard on it. And I trimmed off.
I didn't because it's just under.
a good chunk of my.
I didn't until you pointed out because it's right under your glasses.
So to the viewers, if you're looking at the camera, I have
Viewers,
see
like Eugene Levy.
thick eyebrow, and
It's not, you know what, because you've got the shading in there, it actually is not as obvious as you think it is. Kind of like when I say I'm having a bad hair day and you go, Shannon, nobody's looking at your hair.
so hi, this is Ursamin's Unlimited Access podcast. My name is Levi.
Shannon Ellsworth, founder and CEO of Ursamin,
Boss.
a platform where we can solve shaved eyebrow problems.
No, we don't. But you said this is a report that you've heard about for a long time. This AARP report,
Unpaid caregivers.
where it's basically $600 million in
Billion.
$600
Billion, please.
Of basically unpaid caregiving support that's out there in the industry. So, since you know a little bit about it, why don't you just describe what's going on?
Yeah, little, it's a lot. So there is, it's an aging population. We talk about that. We push to have them age in home. So everybody wants to have, people know that your quality of life is higher if you age in place in your home. And so that's the goal, is the quality of life is higher, healthcare costs are lower. Let's keep people in their homes. To do that, there has to be a transition from the doctor and the nurses to your parent or loved one who's aging, who needs help. And so that's where the caregiver falls. And that's where there's just hours. I think the average number of hours is 23 hours a week in a really stressful, highly difficult medical situation, multiple chronic illnesses. It's as high as 48 hours a week, and nobody pays them for it. So it's a pretty big amount of unpaid, and it's a loss of productivity actually to the country. It's a big hit on the GDP that we have all these people who are basically working for free.
Yeah, this is something we've talked about before, this idea of like, okay, I was in a job.
Yeah.
And I have to get out of that job. Now I have to care for my parents, right? Or somebody.
Yep.
And then, so there's the loss of the income and the GDP.
Yes, that's not even counted.
And then there's the unpaid aspect of the caregiving side. But I'm looking through this report, and one of the things that kind of stood out to me is it says the report highlights increasing economic, which we just discussed.
Yep.
Physical and emotional costs. And I can't stress this one enough, because I think we can come up with solutions to economics sometime. What do you think we can do here at Ursamin to help alleviate some of the emotional costs? I think, so for example, a couple of weeks ago, I was describing my own emotional stress of potentially participating with my health. And this morning, I talked a little bit briefly about my wife's emotional stress of her parents being in Hawaii and needing care. And here we are in New York. So can you just talk about how Ursamin might be able to help with that?
Yeah, again, another good question that has lots of answers to it. So I'll try to keep it short. The challenge, the biggest thing that we can do at Ursamin, this is what I believe, this is why we have this platform, is the administrative nightmare and the lack of knowledge that we have of what we're dealing with is so emotionally stressful. Not knowing, not understanding, not having any, we feel like we should have medical background, and we don't need to have that to take care of ourselves. We give up a lot of our, we love to caregive. We love it. But we often give up how to take care of ourselves because our loved one is going to always take priority. The guilt that you live with, how do you get things in place and know that there's resources out there to help you? So I was talking to Rosalind Carter today. I was like, think about these caregivers who feel alone and are exhausted, trying to figure out how to help their parents and want to take action. And there's so many resources out there for you of people who want to take care of your family for you and with you and support you and love you. But because it's not really been, because it's unpaid and because we're family members, we don't complain. I don't want to take care of my parents, although sometimes there's a lot of people who do, let's be fair. But there's so many things that emotionally there's support out there, and that's what we aim to do. There's the records and all that. The administrative stuff is just trying to remove the time constraint that allows you to actually go back to having a relationship with your parent. That's again, all these things they're hard because they're kind of nebulous, but you're like, if you get 8 hours back in your week that you're not exhausted trying to organize records or whatever, will that help you spend more time with your loved one, building a relationship again versus the conversations that I have with my dad every day are, did you reset your password again? Because it's going to kill me. And then also that guilt of my parent isn't getting the care that they need because I don't understand the resources. So I think what we're doing is just educating, putting everything in one place, answering questions, being available. I'm posting now every day a question for people to say, hey, here's a resource. So you don't have to go Google it yourself.
One of the solutions that AARP recommends, and maybe it's because of their political organization to some extent, is this idea of more resources from the federal, state, local, city governments. How can we also help in this effort? Maybe not necessarily from a politics, but the other stakeholders.
Other stakeholders like?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure there's a lot more. I can imagine.
You mean like in the state and whatnot?
There's
Office of the
There's
Aging.
governments.
Yeah.
Well, there's governments. There's also insurance companies. There's hospitals. I mean, there's a lot of other stakeholders in this. Quite frankly, just the overall economy. What are some other things that we can do?
So some of the things that we are doing is actually we're actually talking to the stakeholders, actually pushing to get the caregiver inserted into the plans. So historically, the aging patient has all these resources. Office of the Aging, you've got provider, payers have theirs, payers, insurance companies, hospitals. Everybody's got the patient, not realizing that caregiver is a critical step because they're not certified medical or whatever. So the things that we're doing is talking to every organization saying insert the caregiver. Now, the hard part is it's not necessarily consistent because, Office of the Aging, how do you insert the caregiver into office in the insurance company? How do you show results if the caregiver's in the middle of that? And there's a lot of legal things that we've had to work through, personal health information and making sure the patient directed. We're now learning a lot of the terminology from like the consumer directed PAP program. If you know that, how do you get paid as a caregiver? Consumer directed, you're still giving the patient the control of who's going to be the caregiver, but you're making sure that they say you're authorized and now you're in the process. So that's really it's really cleaning up, I would say, the getting from the provider to the patient, where does the caregiver need to be involved and make sure that there's policies around that?
Well, I think, if I were to summarize what you're saying is like before it used to be obviously patient-oriented, then family-oriented. The caregiver is this outside outside of that group.
Outside the circle, yeah.
Outside that circle. And we're saying, hey, bring that person as a center point of that conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's as a mother, you have automatic rules with your children. As a child, I have no rules. I have no rights. I have no anything. So I'm literally jumping around outside. And everybody's like, well, is Shannon going to take care of you? And you're like, well, what am I doing?
Right.
So include me in that. Make sure that the patient also agrees that I can essentially be that person. And I think, I was thinking today, we should actually literally have doctors saying, you have to appoint a caregiver. You have to. Just everybody's going to be a caregiver at some point. Listen, it's coming. That we're all going to be a caregiver or need a caregiver, appoint somebody. And that gives you that rules automatic. POA comes with it and things like that. But you've now set it up where they are prepared and can participate with you. So get you inside the circle.
Well, I think this has been really a great conversation. Is there any final words from you?
No, I think it's been National Caregiver Month. And we just celebrate caregivers. It's a big story for us. We love it. And anything we can do to help, please reach out on the app.
Yeah, I don't think there's an episode or a day that goes by that we don't talk about the caregiver.
I know. It's supposed to be about chronic illness patients and healthcare, but you can tell my heart is with the caregivers.
That's true. Again, so here at Ursamin, we believe that everyone makes a better health decision when they have access to all of the information. And that's what we do here at Ursamin. So thank you so much. Like and subscribe. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.